Let's see, I've got Ryan Falla here. He, of course, writes with us with Dodgers 2080. And he's also, as some of you may know, he's a huge Angels guy. And he writes for angelswin.com for, amongst as many other things that he does. Now, he has a really cool gig that he has that I respect because I can't do any of it. But tell us, Ryan, about what you do in the nighttime.
So I do music by night, baseball writing by day, and ever since the season ended, I've been so busy. I play in four bands right now, two metal bands, a rock band, and a country band. This is one of them, Solar Haze. It's me and my
Yeah.
brother. We have a couple records out. We're in studio recording another one right now. I'm out playing shows with Blood Groove. That's a metal band. I'm getting ready to play live with the country band West Coast Turnaround. And then I'm doing light studio work with a rock band called Filters right now. So it's been pretty busy.
Man, that's cool. Right on, man. All right. I guess now we have to talk about baseball. I don't know. Sometimes,
Yeah, I guess so, huh?
I've told people during the pandemic, literally, I miss concerts more than I miss baseball. I'm just being honest. I
No, I
love
totally
going
get
to a
that.
show. Yeah, love going
Yeah,
to
it was the same
shows.
way for me.
Yeah. So, but we're glad we got both of them back. That's for sure. All right.
Yes.
So, the topic of the day, of course, is Shohei Ohtani. You've seen him more than any of us, any of the rest of us in the Dodger sphere of bloggers and influencers and YouTubers and podcasters and all that. So, just got a few questions for you about him. I mean, you saw the implosion. I don't even know if it's an implosion, just the falling flat on the face, kicked in the teeth, knocked out in the first round Dodgers. You saw them just die. Their offense
Uh-huh.
die, their pitching die. It seemed like a lot of people kind of shrunk in the moment. And so, one of the things that was talked about was, some leaders of the Dodgers, such as, I hate bringing up names, but we will. Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, big guys, they went one for whatever. And they really had that kind of like they were defeated look on their face. And I
Uh-huh.
was wondering, one of the questions is, they're kind of more B-level personalities, not A-level personalities. In terms of personality, what is Shohei really like? Like in terms of the locker room around his teammates? Is he a big personality, laid back? What do you get from him?
I would say that he's probably the biggest personality in sports. He is such a laid back kind of guy. You always see in the dugout, he's laughing with his teammates or playing jokes. So he's always keeping it light, he's keeping it loose, which is super important in an atmosphere like what the Dodgers just went through, especially when you lose game one the way you lost. You need someone in the locker room, in the dugout, who's just going to keep it light. It's not going to let it get too heavy. And that's the kind of guy that Otani is. And he would contribute greatly to an atmosphere like what the Dodgers have, not just because of his performance on the mound or at the plate, but just because how he keeps everyone loose and fresh.
Okay, that's yeah, cool. It seems like the Dodgers had a lot of that, but their big guys didn't provide that. And Will Smith, of
Yeah,
course, is has the personality of a cardboard box. Max Muncy does his thing, JD Martinez and all that, but yeah, it seems like there was something missing there. They got kicked in the teeth with that, or really punched in the face and knocked out in that first inning, 6 runs, and they were dead. Um, so we saw him in the WBC and he did really well. And it seems like that was maybe the first time we saw him in a real spotlight. I guess all-star games, but those are just fun.
yeah,
But it seems like the
exhibition.
WBC, it looked like he really stepped it up. Didn't he hit almost 500?
Yeah, he was absolutely ridiculous, especially like the first week of the tournament. It just seemed like no one could get him out, just base it after base it after base it, and then he's doing his thing on the mound. And it's really cool to see him perform in such a high leverage environment like the World Baseball Classic, because unfortunately we haven't seen that too much with the Angels. We didn't know if Otani would be a guy who rises to the occasion, who gets better in the playoffs versus a guy who struggles. And we saw in the WBC, like he gets better, like he really rises to the occasion in a way that no one else really does. And again, bringing it back to the Dodgers, that kind of having that kind of personality would just be so important because he shows everyone else that like you can do it, you can step it up, you just got to be confident, you just got to do this and that, and his influence would definitely be very valuable for the Dodgers going forward.
Okay, yeah, that's what, yeah, because I was first just thinking about that, going, what's he done in the spotlight? Then I thought of the WBC, and then yeah, okay, cool. Now something that I had heard, and I don't know if this is true,
Mhm.
that after maybe 2020 or 2021, he kind of took over his own pitching management and took it away from the Angels. Did you hear anything about something like that? Where,
Yeah,
he said, I'm gonna, yeah, go ahead.
it's funny that you bring that up because this past season was probably the most talk I've heard about Otani kind of just managing his own routine. And you especially heard a lot about it when early in the season, like he was struggling a bit on the mound. He had this fascination with his sweeper, and he
Mm.
was constantly calling his sweeper. He was throwing his sweeper a ton, and at the time, it probably rated as like a pitch that had the most home runs hit off of it. And there was this whole like for a good month, there was a span of like 4 starts where Ohtani would give up like 5 runs a start, and it was tough. And he was just constantly calling the sweeper. And I love Ohtani. Ohtani's great, but there is a certain point where like you need to kind of reel it back from the pitcher because they'll get tunnel vision, they'll get upset. They see that a certain pitch isn't working for them, so they kind of overcorrect and they keep throwing it more and more to try to
Hmm.
force it to work. So we saw him in a situation like that, and for the most part, like he is really good at managing himself, but you do need someone who can like provide a check and balance to Otani. Perhaps like a catcher who is really confident in calling his game. Will Smith does that, So there's just a
Yeah.
lot that could really entice him to a place like the Dodgers.
Yeah, we've seen that with Kershaw in the past, where he falls in love with his stuff, wants to just throw what he wants to throw. It may have impacted him in the 2017 World Series during that when they had the signs. But yeah, just kind of wondering about that because the Dodgers did let Kershaw get away with certain things. They always deferred to him, like letting him even start the first playoff game when his stuff, since coming back from the injured list, even though his
Mm-hmm.
overall numbers were pretty good, his stuff was below average. So I'm just wondering how Tani might react to the Dodgers going, no, 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 we're going to control this.
Yeah, he's a team player. He's always it always seems like he's trying to do what is best for the team. Sometimes players could just get a little caught up in a certain thing here or there and they just need a little extra help kind of just pulling them back. And in that sense, Otani is really no different than any other Major League Baseball player.
Now, okay, so he had Tommy John first at the end of 2018, or is it near the end of 2018, I believe. And then he was the DH in in 2019, right? While he was rehabbing
Yeah,
his
yeah. So
arm.
he DH'd while he was recovering from Tommy John. It was the same story. Like he had the they announced that he needed the surgery, and he was in the lineup the same day that they announced it. He had like 2 home runs that day. They announced that he had Tommy John. It's like so. It's funny that like Otani seems to be a little bit above the standard, above what you would expect. And going forward, I don't see him being impacted at all by having Tommy John surgery in terms of hitting because he was going out raking when he had the messed up elbow. So I'm sure he'll be fine. He's shown in the past he'll be fine.
Yeah, because I mean, it obviously looks like in whoever signs him in 2024 is getting a DH only for the first year.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, and at the same time, he still has to rehab his elbow. So I just wondering how that went. In fact, it was asked last night by one of our people when I was doing our little broadcast, and yeah, I was like, yeah, I don't remember. Um, so do you have any other insights that about him that most of us may not have? Like, you got your ear to the ground to other reporters and stuff like that. Anything that is worth mentioning about Otani and other than his freakish athletic ability, which is just above and
I
beyond.
Well, it's tough to have something new about Otani because he's like the most covered player in all sports. But I will say that he the one thing that the Dodgers miss in this postseason, how you're saying it just seemed like there was something missing. The players weren't totally clicking together. But Ohtani is a glue between all the guys, veterans, rookies. He seems to be someone that everyone can gravitate around, kind of like
Mm.
a center for the team to focus on. And in the sense that like what the Dodgers need, they do they can absolutely get it outside of Otani where they have people that can like really glue the team in together, but he really brings that and he provides that to a team, and that will probably be where he brings that extra value that gets him like that extra bump in the contract.
Yeah, I look at well, with the Phillies, you got Bryce Harper, who is their best player and is also their most popular player and their most visible and their most vocal. He's that guy,
Yeah.
and so I think the Dodgers need someone like that. Everyone's got their personality, and the worst thing you could have is someone faking it. I don't want to see Mookie or Freddie faking anything. They just
Yeah,
are who
yeah,
they are.
yeah.
Just go be great, be great ball
Yeah.
players, be great humans, and let someone else, garner the spotlight. I mean, well, gosh, with something that I factor in is as someone who tries to get press credentials and is denied quite often, I have a feeling if Otani signs, I will never get a press credential again because there's 100 different reporters, it seems like every night. Dodgers might have
Uh,
to rope off a section in the
oh yeah.
stands for that.
Yeah, it's absolutely Beatles mania with Otani wherever he goes and when it comes to press. So yeah, if he ends up going to the Dodgers, I would just count that out. Just cross that off your list. Don't count on getting any press credentials for that.
Yeah, I
And like
mostly
most of it's gonna be
want to.
going to the Japanese media.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mostly wanted to spring training because I just want to go to the backfields. I don't care about the front fields. I mean,
Oh, that's where it
hang
gets
it.
craziest. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, if he's gonna have a whole group following him. Dodgers don't have anything like that. I mean, if you were, I'm trying to think. Okay, so I usually, when I do get a credential, it's usually a Wednesday crap game or something like that, and maybe 15 people maximum around the,
Hmm.
in the reporter scrum at the end of the game. There's not that much versus, well, New York alone has like 50 beat cover people that cover it.
Yeah.
And then, I'm sure if Otani comes, like all of a sudden, every sports thing in Japan is going to have someone
Yeah.
trying to cover them. Just,
Everybody is gonna be trying from the tops to the bottom. So it's
yeah.
yeah, it's just a wash with stuff like that.
And I would also just kind of throwing this out there. I mean, I've been to a couple games at Angel Stadium where he's played, and a third of the people, at least with me in my just quick math in my head, third of the people are Japanese and have Otani jerseys or jerseys on.
Yeah, they go crazy for him. They see him as like that's their child, you know? And they really do act like it when it comes to the coverage.
Yeah, and I mean the Dodgers average 40 to 50,000 a night, and all of a sudden you're going to have a bunch of people with Japanese heritage
Hmm.
competing for tickets. The Dodgers, I look at it this way: the Dodgers will be able to raise ticket prices like crazy, and it
Oh
won't
yeah,
impact.
absolutely.
Yeah, and it won't impact their attendance one bit. They'll actually be a bargain with their cable program. All of a sudden, ESPN, they're going to be on just about every Sunday night, or Apple. Well, that makes it worse when they go put them on Apple Plus or
Oh
Paramount or
yeah.
whatever. I
Yeah, the
mean,
Peacock games.
yeah. So, I mean, I would expect, even just as a DH, I mean, if you have a lineup that goes Mookie, Freddie, Otani, I'm guessing you're going to have a lot of people
Yeah.
wanting to watch that.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I'm just kind of envisioning going, man, I mean, is he okay? I know from a business perspective, I can guarantee this: whatever the Dodgers pay him, it's going to be a bargain.
Oh yeah, it's gonna pay itself back tenfold.
Yeah.
I don't
No.
think any teams are worried about that right now.
And now on the field, I mean, is anyone worth 50 million if they're a DH for a year? And with the questionable of it being a pitcher and all that, let's just say that he ends up being a full-time DH and a relief pitcher. Is he still somebody you go, man, I really wish the Angels would keep him no matter what, as a fan?
See, I've had that conversation with a ton of people. Like with whatever contract you sign him to, 10, 12 years, whatever. The back half of that contract, like he's probably not going to be a starting pitcher anymore. Would love for him
Right.
to still be a starting pitcher. Probably won't. So you're
Right.
paying for a relief pitcher, maybe a spot starter who's also DHing. 50, maybe some team will offer him closer to 60 million, maybe more. And
Oof.
you have to factor that in to the back half of the contract. But that, like, as a fan, you have to factor that in. The GMs probably won't, because unless you're Andrew Friedman, like there's a chance that you won't be working in the same city in the back half of that contract. So you could sign him willy nilly. You'll see it 4 or 5 years, have to deal with it, get a job elsewhere, move elsewhere. You know how GMs are with how they're moving.
Yeah, watch out for AJ Preller or whoever. Who the guy was it? Stearns got the Mets job. Cashman with the Yankees has to be on a short leash.
Oh yeah,
Who else?
oh yeah.
Giants. Farhan's got to be on a short leash. They just fired their manager a couple weeks ago. Um, and those are all teams. Mariners, of course, Dipoto, because the guy.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, he'll probably sign Ohtani and then trade him. That's what he does. He trades
Yeah.
everybody.
Right. Yeah,
Jeez.
and and the Angels GM Perry is on a super hot seat too. He's in the
I
expiring year of
know.
his contract. People had him in the sights if he was going to be Artie's scapegoat. So like, that's one thing, is that people really can't count out Artie Moreno's willingness to outspend anybody if it's going to make him look good in the media. Because he
Mm.
will. If he thinks that it's going to be his trump card, he will spend more than what anyone else is even questioning. Like, he will easily outspend the Dodgers if he wants to. I'm not saying that he will, but we both know that if he wants to, he will.
Yeah. With him or with Ohtani, do you see him going back to the Angels if the money is semi? Let's say the Angels are a little bit higher than some other
Yeah,
team, a
yeah.
contending team. Perpetual. We'll call it the Dodgers. Let's call it the Dodgers because that's seems to be the thing. Do you see him sticking back with the Angels for a little bit more money and because he likes Trout and all that, or is he going to go? No, I want to fricking win. I mean, I know it's tough to. I'm asking you to read minds in a way.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely split down the middle, because there is the part of him that's super loyal, that it has like such deep connections with his teammates, and he loves his teammates like family. Like this isn't just a job to him. It's
Right.
not just a workplace that he shows up to with coworkers. So like, people do seriously need to consider the loyalty factor, and with the contract, when it comes down to money and numbers, I do think, just like, most athletes, if you're talking like 25-30 million dollar difference, like that's a lot of money. I know it kind of
Mm-hmm.
gets washed out when you see like 300, $350 million contracts,
Right.
but if we're talking like if we're talking 20+ million difference, like I do think that would sway Ohtani to come to the Angels. But with Artie Moreno, I think that whatever difference there is, it's gonna be a huge difference in terms of like money value. If he really does feel that, like, he wakes up one day and he feels the manic need to keep him.
Yeah. I mean, because he's good business for the Angels, that's for sure. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure, Artie's doing just fine raking in the Ohtani extra money.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And if Ohtani leaves, like, that's really their best bet at selling tickets. I don't think that Trout by himself anymore is really gonna push the needle in a significant way. With he's missing like up to half a season every
Mm-hmm.
season in the last few years, and he's still great. He's still putting up like MVP caliber numbers when he's performing. But it's just a matter of like the supporting cast is just, it's like half in, half out, and you can't guarantee that you're going to get like big sales off of Trout's name without
Yeah.
Ohtani.
Yeah. And he just seems like he's boring.
The thing that he's not a very like media attractive personality. He's
Right.
just like low key, and it's not a knock against him, but the Angels do need like bigger voices, like people with like bigger energy behind the scenes that's really going to just push the team forward. And that's what I do like about the Angels, is they have young rookies who are like they really significantly pushed the needle in terms of like leadership qualities with Zach Neto and Logan O'Hoppe. So there is a nice foundation for success to be built if Ohtani does come back. If he doesn't come back, then it's going to be probably the most interesting year in recent memory for the Angels, just to see how everything turns out.
You know, the guy the Angels need to pull up. I've seen him 2 years now with the 66ers. What's his name? Starling. You know, the utility infielder, always smiling,
Uh,
loudest guy in the dugout. Oh my!
there's Levon Soto.
No,
Uh,
it's Starling something.
no, that's
I
going over
can't
my
remember
head
his
a little.
name. If I can find it, I'll throw it in the thing. But
Yes, please do.
he's like one of the classics, man, in the dugout. He's always laughing, having a
Uh
good time. Doesn't
huh.
play much.
Uh
Um,
huh. They
oh,
just need
Gail.
that energy, though. They just need that
Yeah,
energy is what they need.
yeah. Gail knows who he is, but he's a character. I hope he's with him again. Um, I'm trying to think. You know, do you have any more thoughts about Ohtani? I mean, you're as an Angels fan going, how bad do you want him back? How are you going to feel if he does leave? Or you know, just anything that we haven't covered about him that would be relevant.
As like an Angels fan, I'm pretty half in, half out. Like half of me would love to have him back, just for just to see the media lose their minds when he comes back to the Angels,
Yeah.
and just to see everyone would be so mad if that happened. And I would love to just see everyone's world crumble. But then there's the other half of me that's like, well, that's a lot of money to tie up to one person. We've
Hmm.
seen like an injury to completely throw him off in terms of half of his value if something just doesn't go right, which is like a big risk.
Hmm.
And there's also reports that if the Angels don't sign Ohtani, that they're just going to blow it up and just be like massive sellers, which would be super interesting to see because you would see guys like Taylor Ward, Brandon Drury, perhaps even Mike Trout on the trade block, which would be
Hmm.
quite the facelift for the Angels, and that might be really exciting to see as a fan that's like just needed to see something like that. And in terms of like other Ohtani thoughts, I think that I've noticed this recently with Dodger fans, especially after the playoff series, is you have a lot of people talking about Yamamoto.
Hmm.
And the Dodgers' biggest need is perhaps starting pitching. Of course, you can always like have as many hitters as you need, but they had their first two starting pitchers in the playoffs. They couldn't even pitch what 2 innings.
Yeah.
And
Total.
next season,
Total.
yeah, exactly. And it is imperative that the Dodgers have someone who is just going to be
Hmm.
shut down, reliable. They've constantly performed in that high leverage environment. And you know, Yamamoto is 25 years old,
Yeah.
and he's been in contract. He probably won't command a contract much bigger than what the current MLB free agents like Aaron Nola or Blake
Hmm.
Snell will command. And Yamamoto, like I know that it's the NPB, but he won the Triple Crown 3 years in a row. Like Ohtani
Right.
didn't do that. He didn't win Triple Crown
Right.
3 years in a row.
Right.
I don't think he even won it once. No offense to Ohtani, and I understand the impact that he has culturally and what he could do in terms of moving tickets and bringing in fans. But if we're talking about like on the field, long term,
Hmm.
postseason, especially next year, like I don't totally know if Ohtani is the answer for the Dodgers. He is definitely someone that makes the roster better, but in terms of what the Dodgers need, just an all around spread, I don't totally know if it is the best option possible. And I think Andrew Friedman, of course, any GM worth their salt is going to be asking them the same question, like, do we
Hmm.
really need this? Is this the best move? So we'll see. I find it interesting how Ohtani Mania seems to have dipped off a little bit coming into playoffs. He got injured. People
Yeah.
started saying, well, he might not get the same contract. Is he just going to get a short term deal now? So you're going to have a lot of GMs that are super factoring in the fact that he's on his second Tommy John. He's not
Yep.
pitching next year. And beyond that, it's questionable. Like, you cannot guarantee he will come back and be as good as he was before the
Yeah.
second Tommy John. He probably will, but you can't guarantee it. And you don't want to spend
Right.
dollars on a non guarantee like that. So I just think that going forward, I'm sure once we hit winter meetings, Ohtani Mania will kick back up and GMs will start to fall into it.
Yeah.
But as of now, I just think that it is a very interesting conversation to have where, I mean, is he even going to get a long term contract where he sign like a 1 or 2 year deal somewhere, come back to the Angels
Right.
for 1 year? who knows, you know? So it's just going to be it's going to be so interesting watching this offseason, see what happens with him.
Yeah, no, I echo your thoughts. That's why I'm doing this thing about Otani because I'm just, a few months ago it's like, oh, I'm all in on him. Now I'm like, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and it seems like that sentiment is like spreading around a little bit. I'm sure, you know, with teams like the Dodgers, like they don't need to make big, huge moves like that to push the needle. But you do have teams like the Tigers or the Marlins or the Guardians who would go out and throw him a 12-year deal of franchise breaking deal just because they need to secure something like that. So you can never count
Right.
out like those mid-market, lower market teams to just do something crazy. But in terms of the Dodgers, I definitely think that they're looking at all avenues that are available, and Otani might not be at the top of the short list.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, I'm thinking the same. I'm just wondering. I keep going back and forth. When I originally was gonna started thinking about doing this question and answer with you and overall podcast was, I think I'm out on Otani when I
That's
first
super
started thinking
interesting.
about it. Now I'm not out because, well, because the personality issues are good. And then
Mm-hmm.
thinking about the WBC and raising to that, just as not just as a hitter, forget about the pitching. We know what he did to Mike Trout at the end, but
Yes,
just to
sir.
really contemplate that a bit. And but you brought it up, Yamamoto and Aaron Nola, guys like that, or make a trade for Corbin Burns. The
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers clearly, I mean, Friedman said it yesterday in his press conference. I doubt you caught it, but he said starting pitching is our number one priority. We know they got some good ones. We know Bobby Miller looks good, and Pepio looked really good, who of course didn't even get to
Uh-huh.
pitch in those things. And we know there's more coming. You and I have seen it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
it there's a million right-handed starting pitchers in the minor league system that just are coming through like crazy. So yeah, just kind of looking at that, going, huh, I don't know. I just don't want to ever see an excuse of, oh, we can't do anything because we're over the salary cap because we got
Yeah.
Otani or the luxury. I use it's a soft cap, but it's a
Yeah,
cap
pretty much. It
because
pretty
you
much
get
is.
penalized. You get penalized. The Dodgers keep getting penalized.
So,
They couldn't get under.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm just kind of thinking of it that way, and I'm sure. Like you talked about the winter meetings. All it takes is two GMs, right? Bidding
Yeah,
against each
exactly.
other, and
Exactly.
you put the Yankees against the Mets in that bidding war.
That's gonna get nasty. No, if
Yeah.
you bring Artie Moreno to the bidding war, he's gonna make it
Uh-huh.
ugly for everyone
Well,
involved. He'll
and
make
he's
it
and he's gonna
ugly.
be in it. Yeah, you're right. You're
Yes.
right. So if you were to get him just against one of those New York teams or against San Francisco, I'm going to say Frisco because they hate it. Frisco, um,
Uh-huh.
just being a wanker. They have a ton of money available, and the
Hmm.
Mariners. I don't know if they can afford him, but I think. Well, I'm wrong. I'm wrong because what he'll do, Seattle, right? Tons of Japanese
Yeah.
people up there. They will sell out like crazy. They'll go crazy up there for him. So he's a moneymaker.
Yeah.
Just from a money perspective, what I'm hoping is it because one thing I'm not positive about with the Dodger ownership, I don't know if they care about the stocks first or winning. I'm not
Yeah. And
confident.
it's always hard to quantify that with like most teams. You know, there are teams like the Angels where they make it pretty obvious that they're more interested in dollar bills and actual on-field performance. But with the
Yeah.
Dodgers, you have like they'll give the lip service for sure. Like with Friedman saying like, oh, you know, these playoff failures, it's like an organizational failure, but they don't totally do anything to like really like do a facelift organizationally speaking. And
Yeah.
personally, I don't think they need to do anything crazy organizational wise. I think the problem with the Dodgers was that they just didn't have juice. Like there was just like no
Yeah.
energy, no panache. Like they need like, and I've noticed this with like across the league is like the most successful teams they have these like explosive young cores, and they have like
Hmm.
young rookies who are just hot, they're hungry, they want to win, and that gets the guys at the top leadership fired up. So you don't want to be in a situation where you're relying on Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman to do everything. You want
Yeah.
guys like James Outman or going forward Michael Bush to be like really given a spark plug, and then Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, you know, they're eating dessert after that. But you can't bet on them for like a main course.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, man. Well, cool. Well, Ryan, I appreciate your insight on the amazing Shohei Ohtani, free agent to be five, was it 3 to 5 days after the World Series? It's gonna be insane. Who knows where he's gonna go? Who knows what he wants? The loyalty, though, I think that's something that people don't think about.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's one of those points. And I think, people, there's one person that nailed things at the very beginning of the season, and that's Mr. Ryan Falla when he wrote an article for us saying, Angels, you should package up Rendon, send Ohtani to the Dodgers, get a haul. And
Yeah,
they didn't do it. The Dodgers didn't do it. I guess for the Dodgers, it's probably good because he wouldn't have helped them as much in the playoffs. Well, maybe
yeah.
bat wise, but still, that was the right thing to do for that organization. I think they could have just all of a sudden kickstarted that rebuild like crazy. With
Mhm.
they probably could have gotten Ryan Pepio, Bobby Miller, Dalton
Yeah,
Rushing. They could have had
yeah.
all those guys, and instead they're going to get a first round pick.
Yeah, and if they do have to sell, blow it up after Otani, you're just hurting yourself more because you're taking pieces that could have contributed to a possible contending team in 2024 if you had traded Otani last year. And if you
Yeah,
traded him last year, those pieces would like have started to be ready in 2024. So it's just a whole lot of ugly setbacks that don't need to be where
yeah.
they are, but it's life as an Angels fan.
It's kind of like being us Dodger fans watching Corey Seager in the playoffs. I mean, it just breaks your heart, but you root for him.
That's fair. Uh huh.
It's
Uh
rough,
huh.
and they should have never let him go. But all right, man, I appreciate you a ton. We will, I'm sure we'll be in contact plenty. Ryan has been our primary writer on our website and just totally kicking butt with that. And I'm sure he's got plenty more ideas when he's in between sets with 4 different bands. My goodness.
Yeah.
I
Trying to stay a
love
little
it.
bit busy, but I always have time for baseball, no matter how much music there is.
Right on. Okay, man. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. I appreciate it. And then
Geez, thank you for having me.